Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome
Hello.
to our webinar.
Hello, welcome everyone. So we are here. I'm Sonia. My name is Sonia Magalhães. I'm from Octanova. I'm here with my colleague, Marcelo. Yes, we are both from Octanova. So thank you very much for attending this. We are here today to talk about Golden Visa open-ended funds and investing those open-ended funds investing in crypto assets. So we have some questions here. I'm doing some questions today here to Marcelo. So Marcelo, I don't know if you want to start with a brief introduction.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Sonia. Thanks everybody for joining us today. So the idea is to make it very conversational, and you can post questions on the chat. Whatever we haven't covered along the webinar, we'll be happy to answer questions towards the end. We have done a number of questions already that we hope will clarify a lot of why crypto assets make sense in an open-ended fund, Golden Visa fund. But if there's any questions left, we're happy not to answer just on the webinar. If the time finishes, we can follow up later via email if anyone.
Yes.
So
okay, let's start by the first one.
Okay.
That we prepare. So I think the first big question is why digital assets make sense in a Golden Visa portfolio, Golden Visa fund portfolio.
Sure. So when you invest in a Golden Visa fund, it's important to think that it needs to make part of your overall investment strategy. And crypto assets do belong nowadays to a part of your portfolio. It's a good way of diversifying your allocation. It has low correlation with S&P 500, for example. S&P has less than 30% correlation with Bitcoin has less than 30% correlation with S&P. So that basically helps to diversify your portfolio. And also they are very liquid nowadays. The main assets, they're extremely liquid. And so we do believe that they can be a good enhancing of your return in your Golden Visa fund.
Yeah, I think maybe you can talk a little bit about the strategy of the Horizon Fund.
Okay, sure. So the way the Horizon Fund does it is we do 65% on large cap bonds of Portuguese companies to anchor the return of the portfolio. And then 35% we allocate to digital assets. These are only the large assets. We're talking about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, but currently only Bitcoin. And this 35% help to boost the return of the portfolio, while the 65% gives a very basic, steady income to the fund.
Yeah, and why this combination of fixed income and crypto?
Yeah, so when we started, we thought about how do we put together the portfolio? Do we include equities or not, and so on. So the thing is, crypto is a volatile asset class, and we thought that fixed income plus crypto. The question is really why 65-35, right? So this is basically the formula that gives roughly 15 to 16% annual volatility to the portfolio. So any investor that is currently allocated to equities will feel very comfortable with this strategy because it has basically the same volatility and a slightly higher return.
Yeah. And in terms of maybe I think you can talk a little bit about the projected returns.
Okay, sure, yes. Yeah. So the portfolio as we have it right now with this 65% on Portuguese bonds earns roughly 4.7, 4.8%. And then the 35%, which is currently allocated to Bitcoin and will remain on Bitcoin probably for the next 18 to 24 months, depending on how long the rate cutting cycle remains. You have to think how much Bitcoin can earn. In the last 5 years, it has given 56% per year. So if you sum like a portfolio that is 65% earning 4.7%, and then 35% that is earning around 56%, you get a total return for the portfolio of 22-23% gross return.
Yeah. Okay. If you I think this moves us for the perspectives for the crypto market. Everyone is excited about that.
Yes.
So
yes.
Can you talk us about?
Yes, absolutely. We, of course, we had this fund because we believe in crypto assets. Yeah. It's a new asset class. When I say new, they are there for 10 years or 15 years, whereas the traditional asset classes are here for 30, 50 years. So we're in the early stages of a relatively new asset class. Institutional adoption already happened initially, which means that we don't believe that crypto assets will die. It's very important, particularly after the arrival of the ETFs, which now are around $100 billion as we speak in December 2024. And a lot of this is in institutional investors. So we don't think any government can kill crypto anymore. So it makes sense to have that into the assets.
Yeah. And what are the biggest ones doing? What the biggest asset managers are doing in the crypto markets?
So
because I think this is a good reference, even. Yeah.
Yes. So the large asset managers, we have BlackRock, have Fidelity, which are some of the really large ones. And what they're doing is they are created ETFs. So these ETFs, they are in total, they have $100 billion worth of assets.
Around that, yes.
So these guys, they're the largest players in the asset management space. And the fact that they are investing that means that they believe in the asset class.
Yeah.
So we don't think that these assets are going to go away anytime soon. The large banks, they are also investing in it. You have JP Morgan, which currently has its own blockchain, and it's basically investing ever more on this asset class. So we're very comfortable that they're here to stay.
Yeah. Sorry, just 1 second, because our camera. Okay.
A life of its own.
Exactly. Okay, so continue here. I think it's also a concern about the crypto exposure in terms of this fund. So I don't know, in a Golden Visa portfolio, how the manager, the fund managers manage the risk of this type of investments. So when they are including, it's the example of Horizon Fund, where we are including digital assets. So how is the approach in terms of the risk in this type of funds?
Sure. So when we designed the fund, we thought, so there's two ways to invest in digital assets. You can invest directly in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, or you can do ETFs. Currently, you have ETFs on Bitcoin and Ethereum. So because we're doing that on institutional level, we needed to have like proper custody, and we decided to go using initially just ETFs because it's simpler to explain, and the cost is exactly the same of having the actual assets, and the liquidity is very similar. So we can do it both ways. We can do it either via ETFs, or we can do it with the actual assets and put it off chain on a custody that we have hired. But we decided to go on the ETF route because investors are more familiar with ETFs. You have your ETFs on S&P, NASDAQ. Everybody understands what it is. It's easy to access, and you can see it. So that's why we used that in terms
ETFs.
of, yeah.
Anyway, the fund is ready to invest directly in crypto.
Correct, yes. If we want, but right now we are going to carry on investing via ETFs.
Exactly. This is the strategy. Okay. Okay, so I think in terms of legal and compliance, there's also sometimes some concerns that we have. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the steps that the Horizon Fund take to ensure compliance with the Portuguese regulation and with the CMVM.
Absolutely. This is an important question, right? Because crypto is a new asset class. So it's important for our potential investors to understand, does this make sense? Is this legal? And so on and so forth. So the answer is, for a fund to qualify on the Golden Visa space, there's two main rules that the AIMA, which is the main entity in Portugal taking care of the Golden Visa, is going to look at. First one is that the fund invests 60% in Portuguese companies, equity or debt. Second, that these companies, they are not investing in real estate directly or indirectly. So we have these two clauses in the regulations of our fund that, one, the fund always need to have more than 60% invested in Portuguese companies in the form of fixed income corporate bonds. and also that these companies, they cannot have their main business as real estate. So with this, we guarantee, we bulletproof the fund, make sure that if anyone invests, you will get your residency and eventually you get your passport after the 5 years. And everyone should be, of course, very relaxed about it. The other thing is we are at Octanova, we are regulated by the CMVM, and that is the main regulator in Portugal, and that should help. It should help, like basically keep investors easy that what we're doing is all by the books.
Yes, exactly, and everything is transparent for everyone. So I think this is the big guarantee. Also, some questions there sometimes we have is how we support, we Octanova, the fund manager, support the clients throughout this process, this golden visa process. Of course, this is something that it's done by sometimes, or almost of the times, they are supported by their own lawyers about this process. So
what we do is you once you invest in a fund, you're gonna need a legal representation in Portugal. That's for sure. You're gonna need a lawyer. If you don't have one, we work with 3-4 large Portuguese law firms. We're happy to introduce you 1, 2, or 3 for you to choose from. Or if you just want us to pick one for you, we're also happy to do that. But you're gonna need a lawyer to help you with not only the onboarding documentation of the fund, but also with the documentation for your residency, your golden visa. It's a long process. It's a 5-year process, many legal steps. So it's important to choose a lawyer that you are comfortable with, that will be able to help you on your journey for your Portuguese passport.
Okay. I just want to say that feel free to put your questions. So put the questions on the Q&A and we will answer. We're more than happy to answer. So if you have any questions, so go ahead and put that on the Q&A sector. So I think we can talk a little bit more and go more deep about your Horizon Fund. So I have a question here is how does Horizon Fund stand out from other investment funds offering access to golden visa in Portugal?
Sure. So not everybody knows this, but 90% of the funds available for golden visa, they are closed-end funds. These are funds that invest in early stage companies in Portugal, non-listed companies. Some of them, they're really good, but this is not for everyone. This is venture capital, this is private equity. We looked into potentially doing that, and we thought, there's already many of those companies in the market, so let's try to offer a different product to investors, right? So when the real estate option was no longer there, then we created a fund that is open-ended fund, which means that we can basically offer subscriptions and redemptions on a monthly basis for investors. And what this means is that, of course, investors shouldn't redeem before the 5 years because they lose their golden visa. But, if there is an emergency, a family emergency, you can count on your money.
Yeah, they are. This is the big difference being an open-ended fund. So they always can change their mind. It's true.
Exactly.
Yes, and they can move for other investment if they are not happy. So this is an advantage for sure.
For sure. And so it's liquid, the assets are liquid. So the corporate bonds, they are all large companies that if you just do a quick Google, you'll find most of them. Most of the bonds we hold, they belong to the PSI 20, which is the main Portuguese index. And the crypto assets that we use, it's basically BlackRock and Fidelity ETFs, which are also available online, and you see that they have deep pockets of liquidity. So we're only dealing with very large assets in the fund, which means that if anyone wants a redemption, we will make sure that by the beginning of the following month, we have the liquidity for them.
Yeah, exactly.
And sorry, can I just ask one more thing? So of course, just going back to why Horizon. So there is the liquidity angle, there is the return angle, as well as we discussed, if the portfolio carry on doing what it's doing, it gives you 22 to 23% gross return per year. So overall, we think it's a very reasonable offer.
Yes, sure. And in terms of minimum commitments?
Right. So There's some investors that, depends on the appetite of investors. So the minimum is 100,000 euros because sometimes some investors decide to diversify more than one fund. But of course, you can invest 500,000 euros in our fund. Now, one important piece of data is if you don't have any exposure on crypto in your portfolio, or you have some and you just want to add, but if you don't have any exposure and you just want to add our fund 500,000 euros, Fidelity says that one should have between 1 and 5% in digital assets as a way of diversifying. So if you have a portfolio that is above $2-3 million and you invest just in Horizon, you will be because it's just 35% on digital assets, you're going to be within this 1 to 5%. So investing 500,000 directly into our fund, it's a way for you to get that exposure that brings all this diversification and enhancement on the returns of your overall portfolio.
Yeah, true. And also about the options on early redemption, you already mentioned, right?
Anyone can redeem anytime as long as it's before the 15th of the month. We give you the money in the beginning of the following month. If you ask after the 15th, we give you the money on the following month.
Yeah. You just have a fee if you do it during the first 5 years.
That is true.
After that, no cost on that.
Yeah, the thing is, we want investors to come along with us for the Golden Visa program. At the same time, giving them the option of if they need the money is there. But we don't want people coming in and out. And that's why we put the fee there. We don't think we're going to use it, to be honest, because people usually decide to stay. And to be honest, and if someone needs the money after 2-3 years and you have already 30-40% return, 5% is not a big deal anyway.
Okay. And also some questions that we also have, we always have to us, it's like the tax benefits for non-resident investors. How can they maximize this advantage? So
that is true. So
in terms of
one thing that investors should think is that the Portuguese Golden Visa program is one of the most flexible ones in the sense that they don't require investors to move immediately to the country, which means that they can carry on whatever country they are for the whole 5 years. They just have a requirement to come 7 days a year or 14 days every 2 years. And that's very good. This also means that you will remain tax resident of your original country if you so wish. And that's very good, depending on what are the taxes in your home country versus your taxes in Portugal. This is part of the let's say, your thinking process on when you want to move into Portugal and so on. So you have this flexibility of remaining in your country and carry on paying the local taxes that you pay instead of moving to Portugal. Portugal doesn't tax you just because you invested in the fund. You only get taxed in Portugal if you become a fiscal resident here, which means you have to be here for more than 180 days.
Yeah, okay. And also, I have here a question. It's relating with the landscape of the cryptocurrency regulation. And so how we match this, like the cryptocurrency regulation and being a golden visa fund. There's any issue or any concern about this, or it's completely so I think if you can, because it's always a concern about that. Okay, it's a golden visa. Can you invest in digital assets? Anything in the regulation similar to real estate? For real estate, it's really clear that those funds cannot invest in real estate. But sometimes we receive questions. So, and what about digital assets? Can you invest on that? Are you sure about that? There's any regulation saying that? So.
Yes. So as we said before, so there are restrictions, and the restrictions are that you have to invest in Portuguese companies, and they cannot be related to real estate. There is no mention whatsoever about crypto assets, which is not a problem. We checked with multiple lawyers. But beyond that, we also invest in ETFs. So the underlying of the ETF is irrelevant. So ETFs are assets that are commonly accepted in golden visa funds. And because we're using ETFs, we double guarantee that this will never be an issue. Now, there is another question from the one you asked, which I think it's relevant, which is, what is the regulatory environment in the crypto space and how can this impact, crypto, what's going on in crypto, right? Right now. So it's because it's a young asset class, it's moving a lot. So I think maybe it's worth going a bit into what's happening in crypto and how we see crypto, if I may.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's important for everybody to know where are we regulatory wise in crypto. So Europe is very advanced. Like there is the MiCA that is coming live on the 30th of December this year, which means that from the 30th of December, any large institutional client or any bank that wants to do crypto, they know exactly what are the rules of the road. And this means that we're going to have more investors, institutional investors coming to the crypto space. Now, we had recently the election of President Trump. Now he's the president-elect Trump, and he's very pro-crypto. The US is very much behind on the regulatory landscape. And this is actually good news because the institutional investors in the US, they're really behind because the banks are not there. Only some asset managers are there because people are really worried that if they go into crypto in the US, the SEC would come after them. So Trump is replacing the head of the SEC with a crypto-friendly person. And we would expect in the next 12 to 18 months to get some regulations in the US regarding crypto. And that will guarantee that this adoption comes from institutional investors, which means that the crypto assets will have more demand and they will benefit from that.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And what about the MiCA, where we say here, it's also will have impacts, maybe. Yeah,
absolutely,
impact.
Yes. But the Europe is already much more advanced, right? Europe is already, they created the laws already, and they are going to come live in the 30th of December, which means from January 2025, big French bank, a big German bank that wants to invest or offer to their investors crypto, they can do it on a safe manner because they know exactly what are the regulations, which means that 2025 is probably going to be a very decent year for crypto. There's like many events still to happen, right? That are positive. Not to mention that we're in the middle of a rate cutting cycle, and crypto is a risky asset that, of course, benefits from that.
Okay. Okay, I think we already went through if digital assets make sense or not in these type of funds. What are the perspectives? You also talk about the perspectives of the crypto markets, let's say. Also talk about what some big asset managers are doing in this field. This is our plan. And also you talk a little bit about the crypto exposure in a safe manner to a Golden Visa portfolio. I don't know if you want to add more on that, but...
Yeah, so the question is, the fund is a discretionary fund, right? We have to have the minimum of 60% of corporate bonds of Portuguese companies, and we decide to just do corporate bonds. Now, in a scenario like an end of the world scenario that we conclude that there'll be a problem on crypto assets, we can always go 100% fixed income if we want. That's not how we see the future. We are very optimistic about crypto. I hope by now people figure out that we are believers in the crypto assets. But it's discretionary. We can always, if something really bad happens, we can always go 100% into fixed income temporarily if we feel that's the case. So beyond the 60% is purely discretionary, and our view is 65-35. It's a good balance. Now, the question we haven't covered is what are the assets that we decided to use and why have we decided to use them, right? Which I'm going to cover now. So in terms of the assets the digital assets that are accepted in the fund, we accept only Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Why these assets? Well, Bitcoin is, first of all, the three assets, they are seen by the institutional investors as accepted as, they have their own utility and reason of being. And the chances that in 5-7 years, these assets are not going to be there are very, very low, right? So people look at Bitcoin as being the digital gold. But just to give you like a little bit of how we see it. So nowadays, in December 2024, the market cap of Bitcoin is around $2 trillion. And gold, it's almost $18 trillion, which means that once those institutional investors we spoke about, they come to the market and just Bitcoin goes to the same market cap of gold, there's still another 9 times to go up in terms of returns for Bitcoin.
Exactly.
So that's just Bitcoin. Now, Ethereum is basically the safest smart contract. Once the large banks, start using more the blockchain, which they will as soon as we have regulations in the US, they will need a safe blockchain to operate, and that's Ethereum. So currently, our investment is just on Bitcoin. As the regulatory environment progresses in the US and we see that the banks are going to start using, we will allocate some risk to Ethereum because of that. Lastly, Solana. Solana is a very fast blockchain with a very low fee. So this is going to be medium term one of the main blockchains in terms of large volume transactions. And we want to make sure that once there is an ETF, which we think is going to come in the first quarter or the first half of 2025, that we're there and that we can invest in those assets because we think they can bring really good returns for investors.
Okay, great. I think maybe you can clarify a bit because you are saying, okay, we invest in crypto, but we will, at least for now, we'll stay on the ETF in BlackRock. Can you elaborate a little bit what it's within ETF
yes.
in
So
BlackRock?
What are ETFs?
Most of people are aware, but
it's
not. So I think it's
sure. So ETFs are basically, it's a fund that was created to be a fund for retail investors. So it's supposed to be a very safe fund that give access to investors. The first ETFs were created for S&P, NASDAQ, and they were very successful. Now that we have crypto assets, because the industry in the US was so behind, BlackRock, Fidelity, and other larger asset managers decided to create ETFs on Bitcoin and Ethereum, which have both been approved by the regulators in the US. And the adoption of those ETFs was much faster than the adoption of the ETFs of S&P and the NASDAQ, which means they were very successful. So to give you an idea, the ETF of BlackRock has almost $50 billion on it. And the whole ETF market on crypto right now is over $100 billion. So it's really, really large.
It's amazing. I know that this is not the purpose of the because today we are just focused on crypto, but of course focus on the 35% of the investment. But maybe you can give some words about the other 65%, the Portuguese bonds.
That is true. Thanks for that. So for people to understand what we can buy on that fixed income part. So we have quite a few rules to make sure that there is enough diversification on the portfolio. So the fund cannot invest more than 10% on any issuer. So it's basically think about the 65%. Any issuer, any bonds that we invest there cannot be more than 10% of the portfolio. Also, we have limits in terms of the credit quality of the bonds. For those that are more financially inclined, the bonds need to be at least BB minus or above. This is an S&P credit grading, which is still on the investment grade area. You can have 10% less than that, but most of the bonds are going to be investment grade and they need to be highly diversified. And another point important is what is the duration of the portfolio? So what's the average maturity of those bonds that we have in the portfolio? So the current duration of the portfolio, which duration is very close to the average maturity, is around 4.4%, which means that the average maturity of the bonds that we have on those 65% is around a bit more than 4 years. So this is all to say that on the fixed income side, we have a highly diversified portfolio. We have 18 issuers and 30 bonds altogether. And on the crypto side, we're using BlackRock and Fidelity ETFs. Maybe one point also that is worth mentioning is that in terms of the security of those assets, where do we hold them? Where do we store them, right? So all the bonds, they are stored in our custodian, which is BCP Millennium, which is the largest private bank in Portugal with 1 trillion euros of assets. And the ETFs, they are stored with Interactive Brokers, which is the largest independent broker-dealer in the US.
Okay. Okay, so for potential clients considering investing in Horizon funds, what would you say in a single most compelling reason for the invest?
Okay. So look, when you're looking into investing in anything, you need to understand what is are you over concentrating your investments into all in one type of asset type? Am I everything equity? Am I everything debt? So you have to look at your portfolio and say, okay, do I have a crypto exposure in my portfolio? No. So if you don't, this is definitely something helpful because you're diversifying your portfolio. As we said, the returns of the fund are very high and they have a low correlation. So this is very helpful for your portfolio. The second thing you need to think is, I'm going to put my money on an investment that in theory needs to be minimum. The journey is really 6 to 7 years, right?
Yes.
So, and given that I'm going to have put 500,000 euros in there, can I afford to have this money really locked for 6, 7 years? Or do I want to make sure that I have like a break the glass insurance that if something goes wrong, I can access that money?
Sure.
So if you're a very wealthy person, you want to put some in private equity, venture capital, of course, no problem. But if this is an important part of your investment portfolio, you probably want to have liquidity on it.
Yeah, exactly. It is a big advantage for sure. So I think we already touched all the main points. I don't know if you have anything more to add here.
So look, I think it's a long journey, right? So I think if we can summarize a little bit why we believe in crypto is that this is a young asset class, that there is a lot of institutional adoption to come, which means that no matter what's the financial environment, the adoption is going to be there. So, if you're going to hold medium term, you should have some, even if not on a golden visa, you should have it anyway as part of your portfolio. So it happens that the timing right now is very good because you have all these things we discussed. You have a monetary policies, and you have a new government in the US that is very pro-crypto.
Exactly.
You have all these regulations that are going to come along. So the next 2, 3 years are going to be very good for crypto. So we really believe that investors should have a good thinking about the crypto assets in their portfolio, and also the liquidity angle, as we discussed. Maybe we can say a few words about Octanova and how we came to be and so on.
Yeah, okay. So Octanova, it's a fund manager regulated by CMPM, here based in Portugal. We have funds, private equity funds, and also open-ended funds, similar to this one. So our approach is we try at least to be a fund manager that are in the markets, but try to have some innovation on the sector. We know that it's a very traditional sector, but we try to have an approach with looking for the new trends and looking for how the financial sectoring where is the trends and where is the move, and we try to follow that, and that's why we decided to launch this fund with this part of digital assets in Golden Visa. So we try to create a product a little bit different in the market, and we are very happy with that. So we are not a huge team, but we have a strategic partnership also with an asset manager which is based in Dubai, and is helping us a lot to launch other open-ended funds. So we have some experience on that, and we have the support of them because they have 20 years experience, and they are very consolidated in the markets. And with this partnership, this is helping us to grow here in the market in Europe, bringing some know-how and some expertise also from there. And we have some other plans in the future, so keep on track with us.
So do we have any questions from the people watching the webinar?
If you have any questions, so feel free. So I think Patrick here is asking something. So if a current investor in other close-ended Golden Visa private equity fund wants to transfer the investment over to yours, what is the process? Can be done without compromising the Golden Visa application. So where we have to say on that, if it's a close-ended private equity fund, so for you move from transfer the investor, so for you move, you have to, in the secondary market, you have to sell your participation units in the secondary markets because you cannot redeem your participation units. But if you find someone there who you want to take your participation units, that's fine. I think that in terms of not compromising the Golden Visa, I would say that check also with a lawyer, but I would say that as long as you maintain the investment, so if you take out this investment but invest in other funds, so if you have to guarantee that during this period you keep the investment, so but you can move from one fund to other one. There's no problem with that. Yeah. The only problem here, or the only challenge here, I would say, is as you are in a close-ended fund, you have to do it in a secondary market. So you have to find someone who wants to buy your participation units. You cannot just simply redeem. This is what happened with our fund. So in our fund, as it's an open-ended, so you can redeem and you can move from one fund to other fund directly.
Not a problem. Yeah, you don't need to go to the secondary market. You just redeem your participation units, and we'll sell some assets in the fund, and you get your money.
Yeah. Exactly, but for now, if you are in a closed-ended fund, this is the case.
And sometimes also the asset manager is willing to buy back some of these shares. The one that sold originally the investment is probably worth checking with them in the first place. And if anything, they will know, if they can't buy back, they will know people that might be interested in buying your shares or part of your shares, so you can allocate into Horizon Fund.
Yeah.
So this was the main question. So Horizon Fund basically is going to, if anyone is interested in investing in Horizon, we are very happy to do a separate call, a follow-up call, talk more in detail if you have any specific questions about the assets of the fund or anything. We're very happy to. I think there's someone raised a hand there. Okay. Again, I think we cover most of the points. If no one has any other questions, I think we can close it here. We don't need to go the full hour. But that's to say that we will circulate our details. And if anyone would like more information, we're very happy to do follow-up calls, share the documentation of the fund if you're interested, or has any other questions that we may not have answered this afternoon for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so any closing remarks, Sonia?
No, I think that's it. We are here open for your for any question there you may have. So totally available for that. More than happy to answer any questions. So I hope this was useful for you.
Yes.
And anyway, if you still have any questions, so feel free to get back to us. And that's it.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody, for the time this afternoon. And we're here. If you have any questions, just reach out via email and we will come back to you as soon as possible.
Okay.
Have a great afternoon.
Yeah. Thank you very much.